Support for today's episode comes from Amazon, sharing stories and initiatives focused on protecting water resources and strengthening water resilience in communities around the world. European nuclear summer curtailments hit corporate budgets. European nuclear plants cut summer output every year. The cost is showing up in corporate budgets outside Europe. River water temperatures in France and Switzerland are forcing nuclear output reductions during the same months when European industrial power demand peaks. For finance and procurement teams managing operations on the continent, this is not an anomaly anymore. It is a seasonal budget variable. Every summer, France's nuclear fleet runs below capacity. The timing is not accidental. The country generates roughly 65% of its electricity from nuclear power, and most of those plants draw cooling water from inland rivers. When heat events push river temperatures past regulatory thresholds, Électricité de France (EDF) is required to reduce output or shut reactors down entirely. That constraint has been present for decades. What has changed is how consistently it now coincides with peak demand periods and how far the price impact travels. In the summer of 2025, the French government's weather service recorded a Mediterranean heat wave that pushed sea surface temperatures more than 5 degrees Celsius above seasonal averages as early as late June. EDF issued output reduction warnings for the Bugey facility on the Rhône River and the Golfech facility on the Garonne River weeks before the peak event. On July 3rd, Golfech shut down one of its 2 reactor units after the Garonne River exceeded 28 degrees Celsius, the legal limit for safe cooling water withdrawal. Switzerland's Axpo utility halted 1 reactor at the Besnau plant on the Are River the same week and reduced the second to half capacity. Power prices in several European markets doubled during the event. Why French nuclear output constraints are a structural feature of summer energy markets. The Bugey plant operates 4 reactors with a combined capacity of approximately 3,600 megawatts and watts. Golfech's 2 units total 2,700 megawatts. Both sites are on rivers that warm predictably under summer heat conditions, and both have documented output reduction histories going back to the major European heat events of 2003, 2019, 2022, and 2025. In 2022, France received emergency regulatory exemptions to continue operating 5 plants despite exceeding temperature limits, a step that regulators described as a last resort. The pattern since then has not changed. The rivers warm, output comes down, and the market moves. The European Environment Agency notes that Europe is warming at approximately twice the global average rate. River temperatures are not cycling, they are trending. The Rhône and Loire, 2 of France's primary cooling water sources, have both recorded higher baseline temperatures over the past 2 decades. The operational implication is that summer output constraints are not becoming less frequent or less severe. They are becoming more predictable. What the 2025 demand and supply collision looked like for industrial power buyers. Energy think tank Ember analyzed the June and July 2025 heat event and found that electricity demand surged 14% in Spain, 9% in France, and 6% in Germany during the peak period. Peak hourly demand was higher still. At precisely the moment industrial facilities needed the most power, the continent's primary baseload source was running below normal output. Cross-border power flows ran at or near maximum capacity as France, the Netherlands, and Germany drew on each other's grids. For industrial buyers without fixed-price contracts or explicit pass-through protections, the price exposure during those 2 weeks was direct and immediate. Organizations that experienced the 2025 event on variable or partially indexed contracts are the most likely to have already absorbed the cost. The question heading into summer 2026 is whether procurement structures have been reviewed in light of it and whether finance teams have modeled what a repeat event looks like against current contract terms. The Scope 2 calculation shifts during European nuclear curtailment events. Organizations using location-based Scope 2 accounting for European facilities are also carrying a seasonal emissions risk that most annual sustainability reports do not surface. When French nuclear goes offline and Germany or Spain ramps gas and coal fired peakers to compensate, the real time carbon intensity of the regional grid spikes well above the annual average figures used in standard Scope 2 calculations. Third party auditors and ESG rating methodologies are beginning to flag the gap between annualized and seasonal emissions profiles. For companies with large European manufacturing footprints, that discrepancy may start appearing in rating reviews within the next 2 reporting cycles. How finance and procurement teams should be reading this pattern in 2026. The seasonal price event created by summer nuclear curtailments in France is now consistent enough to treat as a planning assumption rather than an exception scenario. Any multinational with manufacturing, data infrastructure, or logistics operations in France, Belgium, Germany, or Switzerland should have a summer quarter energy cost scenario that accounts for the possibility of a 2 to 4 week period of elevated wholesale prices. The Copernicus Climate Change Service confirmed that Europe's 2025 summer was among the hottest on record, and Mediterranean sea surface temperature trends heading into 2026 are running ahead of prior years. The procurement review question is specific. Do current European energy contracts include pass-through clauses that activate during wholesale price spikes? And has finance modeled a Q3 scenario where European power prices run double the contracted baseline for 2 to 3 weeks? For organizations that have not run that scenario, summer 2026 is the first credible opportunity for it to become relevant before year-end reporting locks the numbers in. Sustainability Soundbites water coverage is sponsored by Amazon. Visit the link in our show notes to learn more about Amazon's Spotlight on Water. For sponsorship opportunities with Environment and Energy Leader, please reach out to a member of our team.